Okay, today we're still going to work on unit rate, but instead of money, today we're going to work on speed. So we will make a big 3 for 43 and 44, and our topic today is speed. So on 43, we're going to glue in the page that has a car at the top and says speed equals distance over time. So we'll go ahead and glue that in. This is page 43. And our title is Speed. And on page 44, it has the picture of the hiker at the top. And it is page 44. So we're starting out with speed today, and that's what we'll talk about all day. And it says speed equals distance over time. This is something that you will probably talk about in your science class this year, or next year if you don't get to it this year. And it's something that's very, very relatable to unit rate. The first example says, Amy drove to her mother's house, which is 204 miles away. If it took her 3 hours, what was her average speed? Okay, so the very first thing we need to remember is that time goes on the bottom. We wrote this down before. If we need to write it down again, time goes on bottom. So when we're figuring out our rate, she drove 204 miles in 3 hours. So that's our rate, 204 miles over 3 hours. So speed is generally taken in miles per hour. So we need to figure out how far did she go per hour. Well, to get from 3 to 1, we divide by 3. What we do on the bottom, we also have to do on the top. So we have to divide 204 by 3. Now, once again, we can use our calculators to type in 204 divided by 3, but make sure you're writing all this out with me. Okay, when I grade your notebooks, it will be, do you have all of this written out, not just the answers? So that gives us 68 miles per hour, which is perfectly fine as a unit rate, but we will usually see it as 68 mph. Okay. A t-shirt launcher can launch 5 shirts in 20 minutes. What is the rate in shirts per hour? Okay, so it's 5 shirts in 20 minutes. So that's our rate. 5 shirts in 20 minutes. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of converting. I know that I cannot go straight from 20 to 1 hour. I'm going to have to first convert it to 60 minutes. So to get from 20 to 60, I multiply by 3. What I do on the bottom, I also do on the top. So that would give me 15 shirts in 60 minutes. So my unit rate would be 15 shirts per hour. So we could leave it like that, or we could just write it out, 15 shirts per hour. Next one. Alyssa types 900 words in 20 minutes. What is her typing speed in words per minute? Okay, so we've got 900 words in 20 minutes. That's our rate. And we want to know how many words per minute. To get from 20 minutes to 1 minute, we're going to have to divide by 20. So we will also do that on top. 900 divided by 20. And that gives me 45 words per minute. Or we can write that out as 45 WPM. A 2-liter bottle is filled completely with water from a faucet in 10 seconds. How much water is filled into the bottle each second? Okay, so our rate would be 2 liters per 10 seconds. So 2L over 10 seconds. And we want to know per second. So we could get from 10 to 1 by dividing by 10. What we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. Well, if we divide 2 by 10, that gives us 0.2 liters per second. So that could be our unit rate. Or if we wanted to convert it, we could say, well, if we move once to the right, we would be going to deciliters. So this also is 2 deciliters per second. Now, it wouldn't matter which one of these you said. Both of them are correct. So I'm going to circle both of them. Okay, next page. David hikes 2 1/4 miles in half an hour. What is his rate in miles per hour? Okay, so 2 1/4 miles in half an hour. That's his rate. 2 1/4 miles in half an hour. But I need to know his rate in miles per hour. So I need to know how far will he travel in 1 hour. Well, to get from 1/2 to 1, I'm going to have to multiply by 2. Okay, if I had 1/2 times 2, that would give me 1. So what I do on the bottom, I also do on the top. Now, we have not used our calculators very much for fractions or at all. So I want to show you, I'm clearing everything out. Hit my clear button. And I'm going to type in 2 1/4. So the first thing I have to do is find my mixed number button. That's right under the second key. So if you hit that button, the UND, and then you're going to type 2 over, that takes you to your numerator, 1 down, that takes you to your denominator, 4 over, that takes you out of your fraction. So 2 1/4 times 2 equals, okay, now it's telling me it equals 4 2/4. That line that goes down is telling me that it can be simplified. So if I hit simplify, which is right below the key we just used, it's got an arrow, SIMP, it gives me 4 1/2. I know that I'm finished and in simplest form when there's no longer that arrow down. So if I go back, David hikes 4 1/2 miles per hour, or 4 1/2 mph. Okay, John took a 5 1/2 mile walk to his friend's house. He left at 11 a.m. and arrived at his friend's house at 1 p.m. What is his average speed of walking? Okay, so this one we're going to have to figure out a little bit. I know his distance. Okay, so I know what goes on top, but my time that goes on the bottom. Well, from 11 to noon would be 1 hour. From noon to 1 would be 2 hours. So his rate was 5.5 miles per 2 hours. And I want to know his speed, which is per hour. So to get from 2 to 1, I divide by 2. So what I do on the bottom, I also do on top. And once again, let's practice putting this in our calculator. UND 5 over 1 down 2 over divided by 2 equals 2 3/4. 2 3/4 miles per hour. 2 3/4 mph. Okay, a garden snail moves 1/6 foot in 1/3 hour. Find the speed in feet per hour. Okay, so we've got 1/6 foot in 1/3 hour. That's our rate. 1/6 foot in 1/3 hour. And I need to figure out his speed in feet per hour. So I need to figure out 1/3 times what will give me 1. Well, if I have 1/3 3 times, that would give me 1. So if I multiply by 3 on the bottom, I multiply by 3 on top. So this time we don't have a mixed number. This time we have just a fraction. So we're going to use this key that says N over D. Oops. Okay, we're going to type 1 down arrow 6 over times 3 equals. It tells me 3/6. Then it tells me, that down arrow tells me I can simplify. So I'm going to hit simplify, enter, and that tells me it's 1/2. So our snail travels 1/2 a foot per hour. We don't usually put it as like MPH. We don't put FPH. So we're just going to leave it right here, 1/2 foot per hour. And last, a sprinkler system is designed to water 5/8 acres of land in 1/4 hour. How many acres of land can it water in 1 hour? Okay, so we've got 5/8 acres in 1/4 hour. That's our rate. And I need to figure out how many acres can it water in 1 hour. Well, to get from 1/4 to 1, we multiply by 4. So we have to take 5/8 and multiply by 4. So my calculator, ND, 5 down 8 over times 4 equals, it says 2 4/8, but we've got the down arrow, so we're going to hit simplify. We've still got the down arrow, so we're going to hit simplify again. And that tells me 2 1/2. So 2 1/2 acres per hour. And that's it.